What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster because I have been playing this for the last couple weeks, and it's essentially a complete remake. Now, I say this as a massive fan of the original Dead Rising. This is better in almost every single way. New voice acting, completely redone graphics, they've completely reworked the controls to be a lot better. I think this is a 95% improvement, but I do have some very pointed criticisms about certain aspects of it that I think kind of miss the point, but let's discuss. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, first and foremost, what is Dead Rising and what really makes this worthy of a remake? So this was a very unique game when it initially came out back in 2006 because this was during the era when there was just a ton of zombie games of all different types and genres, from survival horror to comedy and stuff like that. But Dead Rising, it did something different because of the scale of it. We're playing as photojournalist Frank West, who's been airdropped via helicopter into a mall in a city that's been completely destroyed by the Walking Dead. So the goal is that now you have 72 hours to try and crack the case, to figure out what caused the dead to rise and either get out or die trying, But what makes this game so incredibly fun is that timer to it, that while you're doing this, you have a lot of options, from goofing off to helping survivors to just collecting stuff or leveling up or just murdering as many zombies as you want in very creative fashions. Well, with this remake, what will immediately just hit you is how much they've retooled the cosmetic aspect of it. This game has been entirely reconstructed in the RE engine, which is what you've seen pretty much everything that Capcom does is in the RE engine. It looks crazy good. Every face, every bit of animation, the way that zombies look. A big problem with the original was the fact that because it was made for the Xbox 360, the technology was not really there yet for the sheer scale of having hundreds and hundreds of unique zombies on screens, so they kind of looked very copy and pasted. Whereas now, not only do we still have that sheer size still, but now every zombie looks appropriately gory, so detailed, so gross and awesome and good to dismember with all sorts of different weaponry. But what makes this game extra fun is the fact that, honestly, now that we have better graphics, you can kind of appreciate the original vision with this mall so much. Willamette Mall is very big. It's got food courts, it's got tons of stores, and you can bust into everything and throw diamonds or steal skateboards or even just get a car and drive around in the courtyard doing donuts. And now, honestly, the lighting engine, the graphics, everything looks incredibly good, but this does bring me to a point of contention that I think some fans will enjoy and some fans won't. So they remade how all the characters look, and I think they look very different. Frank West, the main character, a lot of the people we team up with to crack the case of the Willamette Murder Mall mystery, there is a lot of redoing to how the characters are actually presented, but I think they are all better. Some people I think I personally enjoyed more in the original, but I do think that objectively they do look better. The animations, especially with a lot of the faces, are much more expressive. Now, the other part of this I think might be controversial is that they decided to completely re-record the entire game. Every iconic line from "I've covered wars, to a lot of the screaming of Jesse and stuff like that. Every part of this has been re-recorded by a new cast, and I think they did an incredibly good job. I think they even did a better job, but as a fan, I miss some of the clunky weirdness of the original game. Like, when they came out with this in 2006, some of the lines just felt so wooden and silly. I mean, it felt almost like The Point. This is very obviously based on old zombie movies, specifically the George A. Romero ones. I mean, the movie Dawn of the Dead is pretty much the exact plot of this, and I'm so obsessed with Dawn of the Dead, I actually met the director, George A. Romero. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of that. So, the new voices, though, They are better. I feel like I can take a step back and say the new voice acting is better, but I miss the original. I wish we had the option of playing the game with the original audio because I did like the characters, even if it is a little bit worse. I've just played through the game so many times, I miss those original voices as silly as they were. But let's talk about the revamped gameplay. So, in the original game, it could be pretty tough because it essentially had an early version of permadeath. Frank West has 3 days to try and crack this case, but every time you mess up, every fatal mistake you make, whether it is getting attacked by cultists or going toe-to-toe with a psychopath and not making your move appropriately, it makes it so that when you died, it would actually restart the game. So you have to live through the whole 72-hour mode. You could create these manual save points, but a lot of times when you died, you were dead. The only thing that would carry over is your level itself. By actually killing zombies, doing quests, and helping people out, you get experience points, which permanently gives you a bigger inventory, more health, faster run speed, higher attacks. So there was always this system in the original game of trying to be careful and navigating all the different gauntlets and not making a mistake, because dying meant you had to do it all over again. Now, I appreciated that in the original game because it created a very tangible sense of fear of like, okay, every time I was going on a mission, I would purposely go to the food court and get extra healing items and stuff. I'd stock up on bullets and guns and swords every time I ventured out to make sure that I could not possibly die because I didn't want to restart. Now, the game autosaves completely constantly. If you die, you can just instantly continue from that exact point. So they've pretty much removed even the slight soft permadeath system, and they did improve the controls a lot. The new way you can play, it plays completely like a modern game. From running to movement, you actually used to have to stand still to fire a gun in the original version. They've completely redid that. Driving controls are better. Like, across the board, this is just so much improved, every single aspect of it, that I think it almost has that problem that a lot of remasters have. I review a lot of games, and I've spoken on this, but a lot of these games that have a slightly clunky interface or some parts of it that just aren't super fluid, the difficulty is kind of just wrestling with the game itself. And the original Dead Rising certainly had that. Even as you leveled up, even as you could jump off of zombies or do all sorts of stuff like that, a lot of times when you messed up, it was because of the controls. It made this clunky stiffness to it that made it where you felt like a photojournalist instead of an Olympic-level Tom Cruise badass. In the new controls, a lot of the bosses, even the ones that used to be tough, are laughably easy. Like, I beat the entire game for this review 3 separate times. I got all the endings, I got the secret ending, I did everything. And so when I did that, I realized that it's just so goofy now that it's just so easy to outdodge, outmaneuver, run, headshot, kill everything. Like, it is so easy. It's not a detriment. It just feels weird how much that by fixing the clunky controls, the game is suddenly kind of a joke. Now, the complaints I've had so far are obviously just a matter of taste, of picking between the old version and the new version, saying, okay, here's something that's been improved, or here's something that personally I enjoyed more in the original version. But this last complaint is my biggest problem. It is what I said at the beginning of the video. It is the 5% that I think, in my opinion, kind of sucks. Now, some people are not going to be happy about this, so I really want to try and explain this properly. In the original game, being bored was part of the game mechanic. Now, let me explain. In the original movie of Dawn of the Dead, the whole point of it is that they get trapped in this mall and they kill time. They decide to goof off and be friends and make coffees and just put on silly outfits and stuff like that. They're killing time during the zombie apocalypse. That's literally the point. And so in Dead Rising, that's clearly the focus of it. When you're doing the main quest, there are these specific times that stuff happens. Like, the next quest will not actually be able to begin until like 6 a.m. the next day. So even if you are trying to beat the game and unlock the story, a lot of times, by necessity, you have to wait. You have to sit there. Time progresses pretty quick. Every hour of time in game is like roughly 7 to 8 minutes in real life. So it's not like you have to wait for hours and hours and hours of real life to progress the plot. But I always thought that the boredom is the purpose of a lot of these moments. That because you're stuck here, it's a chance to go and explore, to do extra side quests, to find extra survivors, to find extra little stuff to do. Like, I always enjoyed going out and trying to save everybody I can, or while scrounging for extra supplies, a lot of times on the weird times of night, you'll encounter extra killers, extra lunatics, extra cool items that only appear in limited time events. And now they have introduced a mechanic where you can fast forward the clock. At any time, you can go back to the safe room and just fast forward time. Now, I'm not saying this is game breaking, but it makes it where a game that takes about 20 hours roughly, to actually beat the game, you can beat the entire game now in about 3 hours. If you know what you're doing, you can beat the game in 3 hours because you can just achieve a quest, go back, fast forward time a bit, achieve a quest, fast forward time a bit. Now, I'm not saying this is bad. I'm just saying that I almost feels like this kind of defeats the purpose of Dead Rising. And I'll go a step further. I wish they had an option to remove this. I wish there was a game mode that I could play that did not let me speed up the clock, because this acceleration thing actually exists even in Infinity mode. This is a special mode where instead of just trying to beat the game and escape, the goal is instead to live as long as possible, where all the supplies that would typically respawn, like different health items or pies over in the food court and stuff like that, it stops respawning, and instead it's now just a matter of trying to live as long as possible. In fact, as you sit here, Frank West actually has a hunger meter now, so you have to constantly be scrounging for that next bit of food and healing kits and stuff like that to keep alive, and you're trying to live as long as possible. A lot of achievements and trophies are linked to this. In fact, this used to be considered to be one of the hardest achievements of all time. I got it on the original Xbox 360 version, and I loved that 7-day survivor. Now, you can just stock up on healing items, go back to the safe room where nothing can get to you, and fast forward time and just keep drinking milk to get past it. Like, it literally, in my opinion, ruins Infinity mode. Like, maybe people would say, oh, you're breaking the game for yourself, but I almost feel like time acceleration should be limited to a certain amount or something. I don't know. It just feels odd. The quality of life improvements of this are undeniable. I mean, the amount of stuff they've tweaked and changed and improved across the board, I definitely think this is worth the money. If you're a new fan or a classic fan coming back, especially some stuff like there used to be this thing where in the game, Otis in the control room, there's a guy in the safe room who has a walkie-talkie. He can call you and tell you about other events. When he sees survivors, it's like a way of getting extra side quests. And that's always been cool. But in the original version of the game, if you got touched, if you got bit, if you fell down or anything while getting these calls, it would automatically end the call, which meant that in the original version of the game, to actually save everybody, it was a strategic pain in the ass to constantly be getting calls, making sure you're safe enough to get the next call, taking people back to the safe room. It was a mess. They have streamlined so much about this game that I think improves the experience. It's just that clock that, to me, does feel like an odd choice. I'm not even going to say it's wrong or bad. I'm just saying that as a mega fan, I feel like it was an odd decision that I definitely would not have made. But that's just my thoughts. Overall, I loved it. It's still the original game, but now a lot more beautiful, a lot more cool, and definitely a lot greater to look at. But how do you feel about Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.